unfold for this video. If you missed the first part, basically I interviewed my tutor about the interview process at my college in Oxford, just to give you guys a bit more insight into how that actually works and to give you some tips and advice on what you should do or what you could do for a potential interview at Oxford for medicine. Now, this video is all about basically analysing, critiquing my own interview that I did 2 years ago. So I've got my answer sheets and we're just going to talk through my performance for when I did my interviews. So yeah, enjoy.
Okay.
Do you want to have a look at this?
I don't really, but I feel like I should anyway.
Okay. Well, so page 1.
Page 1. Okay.
So this is how we would start, and just one thing to point out is obviously all of the highlighting in the blue pen is done in advance.
Okay.
Now, what you'll notice is there's a circle on the left, which is sort of background, contextualized information. So that's been circled because we have to acknowledge that. Then on the right, you'll see all your GCSEs. And what do you notice about the ones that are highlighted?
They're the ones that aren't A stars or
Right.
high grades. Yeah. Coursework A star prefers computers. Okay.
So,
my mum's maths teacher is circled on here as well under the maths. Yeah. So like all the subjects at GCSEs that I got like B's and an A in had been circled. Probably why I got circled. And I remember you asking me like for my astronomy why I got a B, and then me having to explain that it was like an optional thing.
Okay. And on my comment sheet here, one of the boxes I have to fill out is something called intellectual curiosity.
Okay.
And it's this box here. And maybe you'd like to read out what it says in the intellectual curiosity.
It says did astronomy because it was exciting.
And there's an exclamation mark there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what has happened there is right at the front end of the interview, I've highlighted those. Okay, those GCSEs where you didn't get any stars. And what I want to know at that point is, why didn't you? Okay, and obviously everybody watching the video can't see the rest of Tolu's,
this is just so funny to look at.
There's a lot of A stars there. And I think it's why you slipped up. And with the astronomy, you're reading all the comments now.
It's the fact that you said I was too logical.
Oh yeah.
For one part.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, this is interesting. Okay.
So with the astronomy, I think my comment on the UCAS form is, you did it externally in groups of 4 to 5 people. And so what we've discovered there is it was something that you're a little bit passionate about, that you did outside of school, all right? And you still got a B grade, despite maybe not having structured lessons or whatever, and you came across as passionate about that. It comes back to, we want to see that enthusiasm, that engagement, all right? With the computer sciences, I think that is interesting because, again, I'll probably ask you why you got an A, and you're saying, okay, I got an A star in coursework. That's a positive, okay? We know then that, maybe you just blipped in the final exam.
Yeah.
All right. I think with the A levels, it's, again, what was interesting about yours was that you had an AS, that you're predicted 2 A stars A. This is actually another tutor's form. This is from one of your clinics. Now what's interesting is you'll see there's no actual comments about you as an individual. Okay. More what it's doing is listing all the problems that you went through, okay? But again, right at the top, flagged there, is predicted 2 A stars A. Now, we see candidates that predicted 5 A stars. So what are we thinking with 2 A stars A? We're thinking, okay, good, this is really good. You're going to make the conditional offer if we give it to you. But it's not 3 A stars. So why are we flagging that up? Because ultimately what we maybe will look at is your BMAT score.
Okay.
And we want to confirm through your BMAT that you're probably going to get your 2 A stars. Now, I don't know what you got for your A levels.
My A levels, I got like what I was predicted.
Right.
But my
Excellent.
BMAT, when I saw the results, I was like, okay, this is, if anything's gonna like fall to me, it's my BMAT.
Right.
Because my BMAT grade in comparison to like previous like average scores was not up to par. So that was my concern at the time. Because I know my section 1 was very, very low, like in relevance to like what people usually get. But my section 2 was alright, section 3 was also alright, but my section 1 was my big concern because it was really quite low.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to see this.
Now, this is interesting. So this, so if you give me back the one with just the boring marks. So now what we have here is the interview sheet from the other person who's sitting with me.
Okay.
And one of the things that happens a lot is when I'm asking the question, I'm focusing on you asking the questions, and we're having this sort of quite dynamic, fluid conversation. The other person is taking notes on that and actually thinks you're doing quite well on the discussion about the synapses, about the plasticity.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll see in the box above there's a comment that again you were quite slow with the problem. I think what is interesting there, and it comes to my comment that you were too logical, you were giving us sort of like the bullet points, like, okay, I know this fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that fact, I moved to this fact, I moved to this one. Which is why I'm almost saying too logical, because actually I think you gave us all the facts, but then you sort of failed to slightly see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's not a problem, because you're identifying, the science, the knowledge that you need. And for example, like the promoter question.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. Could you tell me what it is so I can build that into my model? So maybe you didn't have the sort of the bigger overall thought as to what we were getting at. But I think that's a relatively minor point actually, and it's a positive for us to see that you're logically thinking under pressure.
Yeah.
Again,
Mm-hmm.
in the interview, that you're giving us science, what you know, and say too logical. But yeah.
Yeah. This isn't as bad as I thought it would be, so this is all good.
Yeah. And I think one if I take those both back, if you then turn over to your school statement, I think that's quite interesting as well. And I don't, we never know if the schools actually pass this on to you.
Oh yeah, after it was submitted, my teacher did read it back to me.
Right. Sure.
So it was like after it was submitted, just so I didn't have to sort of feed into anything.
What I find interesting there is you'll see there's a blue box.
Yeah.
With asterisks at the is
Yeah.
it right at the bottom? And that's obviously something I've picked up in what the school had said about you. And then actually following the interview, I've done a second box in pencil, a bracket on the left-hand side in pencil with a couple of asterisks.
Mm-hmm.
And what is interesting there is I've spotted something that the school have said about you that is real. And I know that sounds funny because actually we don't put a lot of store in actually what a number of the schools say. But, I'm saying here, okay, too logical. Well, actually, the other things, communication skills, very good, composed, clear thinking, very logical, good questions, scoring high on potential. And what have the schools said there in the pencil bracket?
That I'm exceptionally well motivated with a thoughtful persona, finding the buzz and solving complicated equations based on the real world, and that my enjoyment lies within the applied side of courses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that is sort of fitting with what we're observing in the half hour.
Yeah.
And the school have got that in there, which is why there's now that pencil bracket, because I'm like, okay, this is my observation. Do they reflect it back at me?
Yeah.
And then that sort of brings it all together. All right. And I think at that moment, I'm pretty confident in my assessment. Because obviously they've had 2 years or even longer
7
to
at my old school.
7 to assess you. All right. So I don't know if you looked at the scores.
I know
But they're quite interesting. And I tell you what is interesting is things like this. All right?
Okay.
And things like this. And what I'm actually pointing out here is that a number of the scores have been crossed out and other scores have been added.
Okay.
And essentially what that reflects is, to some degree, our conversation. We've come to these scores independently. You'll see actually I have got 2 scores. I've put possibly 3.75 as knowledge deficits, all right? And we've talked about this earlier. That might seem a bit harsh. It's me basically saying, Tolu doesn't know what a promoter is. My goodness, how outrageous. But then it says 4 on potential, and the 4 is circled. And so what I'm doing is, at the end of the interview, as I say, you've walked out, we're probably feeling good. We write down a score, and then we're like, okay, wait a sec. At that moment, we maybe do compare you a little bit with other candidates, and then you see these alterations. Okay. Now, to give you an idea, typically, so we're scoring from 1 to 4. Historically, you need to get a total of 14.
In total, so added up?
Added up.
Okay.
Which is 3.5 per interviewer.
Okay.
Right? So you got a 4.
Yeah.
From this wonderful tutor
Okay,
here. Can't imagine who that was. Okay.
Who would have given me a 4? Who would have?
And then we've got a 3.75.
That's 7.75.
That's the academic interview. So
Okay.
you've done really well there. Then this is the more sort of clinical interview. You've gone with a 3.5 and a 3.5.
14.7.
You're well above. Yeah.
Okay.
You're well above 14.
Okay.
All right. And so yeah, you can see how it worked out. And again, look here. This I know which tutor this is. It says confident answers, strong motivation. Again here, very mature, determined, eloquent, confident. Well explained concepts. Scoring high on potential, composed, clear thinking. Again, that clarity of thought is coming through, even though, and I don't know, were you nervous?
Oh yeah, but I've had situations, like enough situations to sort of hide my fears, so I can come off quite confident, even though inside I'm literally probably dying on the inside. But that's just me as a
even
person.
with that internal fear, you were still being logical. In actual fact, up here, too logical as far as I was concerned. So and I think that again comes to, that's an important attribute. And actually, as a doctor in the future, that is going to be an important attribute, because things are going to be kicking off, something's going to be happening with a patient. Can you deal with that in a logical way? All right, so that is an absolutely key attribute. All right.
This is so interesting to see. But yay, 2 years ago, I was, my tutors liked me. I wonder if that's the same for now.
Do I regret the 4?
I hope not. I hope
Definitely not.
Yay. Okay, but yeah, that's great. Thank you, Simon.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. So hopefully we've answered some of your questions. Well, we have answered some of your questions, but hopefully that reassures some of you about the interview process at Oxford. This is quite pupil specific. However, a lot of the things that Simon has said and that I've said will still reflect across other colleges. It just may have slight differences. But overall, yeah, that's it. Thank you, Simon, for being here. And thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.